I was recording now.
Okay.
Beamish.
Okay, here I am.
That's Beamish. I am baleful. Very, very baleful. And it was a lot. This is the Inns of Court walk. It doesn't trip off the tongue, but
This wasn't actually on the walk, was it? We just went there.
No,
for coffee.
This is a funny pub.
I got coffee in there, and
it's called the fucking the
Friar.
Is it? That's what
Black Friar.
Yeah, there he is. He's a jolly soul. It's a looks like a wedge of cheese, doesn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it kind of looks towards the river. I was just saying, how nice it would be to live in that top floor, if that was your bedroom, to wake up, the sun streaming in, the view from Blackfriars Bridge.
Oh, I've got a kind of picture of the view. One of these. Not that one. Not that. Must be this one. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
I mean, obviously that's not from the top floor, but it gives you, an idea.
That's very contrasty, that picture.
I was shooting into the sun.
Yeah.
I like that though.
Yeah, no, it's good. But yeah, you can't see much detail.
Well, this is where that's Richard's hat there. You can see the bit of his hat.
Yeah.
And you're over there somewhere. So that's where it began. You were having a coffee. Ricky was having a moan about certain people. We won't go into that. And then, anyway, let me get this roll up finished. Are you smoking or not?
Well, I didn't bring any tobacco because I just had a kind of weird.
When did you get back from Port Merion?
On Monday.
Okay, it's
Monday.
only Wednesday.
Monday
now,
evening, yeah.
Oh right, God. So you haven't even had for some reason in my mind you'd had the weekend or whatever to recover.
No.
And today's Thursday, and you only got back on Monday.
Yep.
And you went down to the prisoner village.
Yeah. Port Merion.
Is the prisoner your favourite television show?
No, not at all.
But it's one of them.
Well, I've just got I remember when they first showed it on Channel 4, I think in the late 80s late 80s it must have been. That's the first time I saw it, and became a kind of cult sort of favourite. And yeah, if you've never seen it, I recommend you should watch at least one episode.
But I'm under the impression that he's the only human in it, Patrick McGoohan.
No, well, you know what the thing. Patrick McGoohan was in a series called Danger Man, which was kind of like he played like a kind of James Bond
Right.
figure.
Yeah.
And
is
then
this a sequel to that?
No, well, kind of. This is what happened. It's like he wrote it himself. Well, he wrote a lot of it.
The Prisoner.
Yeah. Patrick McGoohan, and it's kind of seen as if like the character that he was in Danger Man has somehow been kind of excommunicated and put away in this village. And the premise of the series is that every episode he's trying to escape from the village, and there's various the people kind of containing him within the village. This association that you don't ever find out. It's just called the Village, and he can't. There's no phone line. He discovers there's no phone line out of that. He can only and when he tries to walk out of the village, that you can never escape. Once you reach a certain boundary in the village, this white floating ball comes after you and gets you. So yeah, every episode he's trying to escape.
But they didn't build a whole village.
No, the village was already there.
Wow, why is it empty?
It's not empty. It was built as like a kind of. It's supposed to sort of look like a kind of Spanish town or something like a. Yeah, it's odd. It's this. It was the creation of this kind of eccentric architect, and he built it. It's always been a kind of a holiday I think it was intended to be like a holiday destination, but when Patrick McGoohan was like thinking about the prisoner, he'd been there before and he remembered it and thought this would make like the perfect place.
Right. Okay.
And it did. It really works really well when you watch the series.
So it is an operating village. It has locals.
Well, it's kind of like a holiday.
A holiday village.
Well, yeah. I mean,
so you rented a whole cottage.
Well, it's like if you watch the series, you'll see like all the different buildings, and each building is you can rent out. Yeah. Or
So
part
which
of
one
it.
did you rent out?
I've been there before. The last time I went, we were in the series. There's a big, like, massive chess set, like a kind of that you can where you move the pieces.
Yeah.
And that's actually it. That's it features in the series as well. We were near there. This time we were on the other side. You can stay in. Yeah, there's numerous buildings that you can stay in.
Right, but you didn't stay in something like the police station or something.
No, but I mean, like they've got this is another.
They've got a shop.
Yes, of course. There's two shops. There's a Port Merion shop, and then there's the prisoner shop. There's an actual prisoner shop itself devoted to.
Tat.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Another thing in the series, no one has a name. They're just known as numbers.
Do you get a number when you turn up there?
No. But in the series, Patrick McGoohan is number 6, and the top of the tree is called number 2. He's the sort of the head of it all. But quite often in the series, number 2 changes. Like there'll be a new number 2.
And what if you are a rowdy? You and your mates turn out to be a rowdy bunch, and you're up blasting music until 4 o'clock in the morning. Is there a policeman who comes around and knocks on the door?
No, the big white ball comes. Big rover comes and gets you.
Okay. So you had a good, how long were you down there for? A week?
Sort of a weekend and like sort of the end of Friday and the beginning of Monday.
Okay. How many of you were there in your gang?
4.
A gang of 4.
Gang of 4. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for making the effort to after all those shenanigans. Is in Cornwall?
No, Wales.
Wales.
Yeah.
Deep into Wales?
Yes, it's like long drive.
You got the National Express?
No, my brother drove me.
Okay. So then we had the coffee, and then we got up, and we
walked around and found the place over the road.
Yes. Well, I'll start the text, but dear listener, it might be confusing at first because you don't know what an inn is. Our first stop is reached by following the map from Blackfriars Station, and the pub was opposite Blackfriars Station. So following the map from Blackfriars Station along Tudor Street, and on Tudor Street, just by the by, we found a side street off of it that was What's going on there? It was named after. Wrong one. Oh, for fuck! Don't tell me my computer's playing up. I spilt some coffee on my computer, which was annoying. What's happening here? It is fucking playing up. I think it's because this is. Might be because of that. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Oops, I said I wasn't going to swear. Yeah, there we go. Fucking.
Oh, John Carpenter's tree.
Named after John Carpenter, the filmmaker.
Well, it's not, is it?
Well, who
It's
else
another
is it
John
named
Carpenter.
after? What other John Carpenter?
Well, I don't think. I think you'd know if it was the John Carpenter.
I did send these photos to John Carpenter, the filmmaker, on Twitter, saying they'd named a street after you. One of his friends put a like on them, but he was quiet as a mouse.
Beyond.
Couldn't be drawn in.
Beyond contact.
Yeah, didn't want to know. Did not want to know. So we entered through Tudor Street Gate, and I did get a photo. There we are. There's Tudor Street Gate. This is an old photo. So we went through there. Do you remember going through there? There was a barrier. This is an old photo.
Oh, there was a guard there.
Little man.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, no, I remember now.
I
Yeah.
had to smuggle my beer can through. So I went through there. And there was a lady walking a dog.
That's right, yes.
Yeah,
And she was coming out of the... She's obviously one of the...
She lives
she's
there.
studying there.
I think she actually lives there. A lot of people do live there as
Do
well.
they? I thought that was just for the people who were studying.
No, some people actually live there now.
All right.
So,
Okay, well, you need to explain that it's a
well,
law school.
Yeah, this is not what I'm about to do. Is an info dump, which is maybe I should have had a coffee to do this. You enter through Tudor Street Gate into a kind of a square, right? And suddenly, well, even when you go up Tudor Street, everything becomes very quiet. And then it gets even quieter when you go through the gate into the square. Or at least it was on this Sunday.
It was a Sunday.
Yeah. So I'll just read now. Before the 18th century, the area to the east of Inner Temple was known as Alsatia, a lawless area full of thieves and desperadoes who frequently clashed with the lawyers who worked and lived nearby. In 1691, Inner Temple. This area is called Temple. The reason will become clear later, but just accept it for now, listener. Inner Temple tried to brick up Tudor Street Gate to stop Alsatians. Those are the people from Alsatia.
Not dogs. But is that where the dog's name comes from?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. From entering. However, the latter, that's the Alsatians, attacked the workers, killing one and knocking down the sheriff who arrived to try to restore order. Now, here we are. This explains everything, right? There are 4 inns of court, collectively serving as the headquarters of the branch of the legal profession known as barristers. This might seem boring, but it's not, right? These wigged and black-gowned advocates have had a virtual monopoly on the rights of audience in the English courts since medieval times, and a student wishing to become a barrister at law must be affiliated to one of the inns. Inner and Middle Temple, Lincoln's Inn and Gray's Inn. Both those two are in different areas. Upon qualification, the student is called to the bar, originally the railing that enclosed the judge in the courtroom. Inner Temple's origins, like those of the other 3 inns, are obscure. Some have suggested the inns began after an ordinance. An ordinance is kind of an order, basically, of Edward I in 1292, placed barristers under the control of the judges, rather than the church, thus creating a secularized profession. Because previously the law of the church and the law of the land was all muddled up together, so this was kind of splitting up the two kinds of laws. I mean, you could be tried for adultery by the church, so to speak. That was a church law. You wouldn't be tried for adultery now, only by if your wife wanted to, or your husband wanted to take you to court to divorce you for adultery. But you could actually just be charged for adultery back then.
Well, someone else could do it.
Yeah, the church could just...
Well, they just say, "Oh, you! I saw you.
Somebody could...
I saw you. You're going to court."
Yeah, this is what happens in the Chaucer. You got like people that have these jobs to do that. Yeah, it's good, the Chaucer. During the early 14th century, it's likely that lawyers began to leave the schools of law based within the city to congregate around new inns, lodging houses originally, just west of the city wall. Although most of the official records of the inns do not begin until the 15th century. Right, this is a huge info dump. But it is interesting. Each inn is an unincorporated association of students and barristers governed by a central body comprising the masters of the bench, normally drawn from senior members of the judiciary or Queen's Council, the highest rank of practicing barrister. The inn provides certain key services: assistance with training for students, the provision of office space for barristers' chambers, a library for research, a chapel for spiritual needs, and a central hall that serves as a focal point for the inn's social and ceremonial order. Now, when I was reading this out of the book to the gang, to the guys, they were sitting on these steps outside of one of these
residential
buildings, or what is residential now, but had been inns where people would.
But the inn was always a residential place anyway, wasn't it? They just said it was somewhere to live, somewhere to worship, and blah blah blah.
Well, it was everything.
Yeah,
it was like a college. But now they're just residential, I think.
Oh, I thought they were still part of the school though. You still go there to learn. You don't just go there to live. I thought that's why they got their names all outside, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought that was just. Yeah, I think you might be right. But anyway, the dog walking woman, she had gone into that one. We thought, oh, that's okay. Now we can. But then she came out again.
Well, I think she was taking her dog for a walk.
No, but she'd been walking it twice.
Well, she can walk as many times as she likes. Her dog.
But she didn't mind once I explained the situation.
She seemed fine. She wasn't like, right, I'm going to sue you all. She wasn't. She didn't have her judge's wiggle.
The temple area covering inner, middle, and outer temple was once owned by the Knights Templar, the religious military order that was founded in Jerusalem in 1119 during the Crusades. Originally formed to protect pilgrims visiting the Holy Land, the Templars built up a vast network of estates. By the way, the Crusades weren't called the Crusades at the time; they were called pilgrimages. So anyway, the Templars built up a vast network of estates and mercantile, that's money, trade, interests throughout Europe and the Crusader kingdom of Outremer, which is worth looking into. It's a nice name, like Alsatia and Outremer. These funny old names. The English branch of the order moved to this area in the 12th century from their original headquarters in Holborn, and their land stretched from what is now Fleet Street right down to the Thames. However, from 1307, a number of European monarchs, supported by Pope Clement V, decided the Templars were becoming too powerful for their own good and began to persecute them. Really, people say they were going too rich for their own good. And that rich, well, I suppose money does equal power, but so all kinds of strange stories. This is, by the by, were made up about. Well, were they made up? Nobody. We're not sure that they were homosexuals. They were sodomites. That they worshipped Baphomet.
The Knights Templar.
Yeah. Nobody has fully gotten to the bottom so to speak, of those tales, although you can find lots of that on YouTube if you want to look into that. In 1312, the order's London properties were taken over by the Crown and given over to another similar religious military order, also founded in Jerusalem, the Knights Hospitallers. Because, I mean, a lot of the Templars were put to death. They were just put to death, yeah. They were tortured and put to death, I mean.
But so they were formed in Jerusalem?
Yes.
Well, getting to Jerusalem in that time must have been a bit of a bloody trek.
It was a trek. But
they did it somehow.
They did it.
So they did it, and they became established in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And they came back to London.
I don't think they weren't. Well, they weren't formed in London, but they made branches all over Europe.
Right.
They were Europe. They spanned Europe with little branches, and their headquarters was in Jerusalem.
But the originators, were they all from London, or were they from all over Europe as well?
I was looking into this the other day. I think the originators were French.
Mm.
Their original thing, did it say it was that they were... You could hire them as sort of mercenaries to protect you if you were making your own pilgrimage to Jerusalem.
So say I'm thinking, I fancy going to the Holy Land.
Yeah.
I better get some Knights Templars on my back.
Better get some protection.
Right.
Because it's a long journey.
Right.
And not everybody's nice.
So they're like a bit like hitmen.
Well, mercenaries, bodyguards.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, you know. But once in Jerusalem...
So was that quite a popular thing to do then? Go to Jerusalem?
Yes.
People were doing it all the time.
It's not a great movie, but Kings of Heaven, I think it's called, or something, by Ridley Scott, does bring certain aspects of it vividly to life. It was the world back then was not all stagnant misery. Of course, there was, like wiping your bum was hard and stuff like that, but people have been travelling around the world since the world began.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but it just seems I can't. I mean, it wasn't like having a package holiday, was it? It's like a bit more treacherous.
No, it took a bit longer. It on a horseback, going every day. I don't know, maybe 3 months to get from England to Jerusalem.
No. But they think, it sounds like, we're just nipping off to Jerusalem, come back, like.
But that's kind of how it was.
Set up a brotherhood of weirdos in London, become really popular, start the legal system. You know what I mean?
That's kind of how it. I mean, yeah. Well, he does bring it kind of to life in that film, the Ridley Scott film. It's not a great film, but certain aspects of it are very, very good. So anyway, in 1312, the order's London properties were just taken over, grabbed by the Crown, and given over to another similar religious military order that was also founded in Jerusalem, the Knights Hospitallers. So you had various groups of mercenaries, The Hospitallers leased their new lands to the lawyers who were already congregating there, and the inns of Inner Temple and Middle Temple are first mentioned by name in a manuscript yearbook of 1388. So anyway, now you know why it's called Temple, because of the Knights Templars. After the Hospitallers were themselves suppressed during Henry VIII's dissolution, the land reverted to the Crown. In 1609, James I granted the land to the two inns in perpetuity on the condition they maintained the church and master's house. Whilst it's not entirely clear why the two inns developed on the Templar lands instead of just one, today they remain separate, albeit neighbouring institutions. I'm just nipping to the kitchen for another Carlsberg. I'll be back. Oh, you've done yours. Okay, sorry. I'll split this one with you, and then I'll go to the shop.
All right.
Oh, I don't need to do that. Aha! Thought ahead.
Right, nice one. Thanks.
Right. Here we are. So, Baleful is back, full of woe. So, what were your first impressions then, Beamish, when we were sat there?
Well, I was impressed by the sort of sight of it. I guess you're going to mention next the parks, aren't you?
The park?
The bit attached to it.
Yeah.
It's very, it's. I mean, you also notice that there's these little Pegasus, little like coat of arms, which is above every single doorway of this particular part of the inn. Are we calling it an inn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd never been in there before. I was impressed.
It was a completely new area of London to me. I'd never ever.
Didn't even know it was there.
I even heard of it.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was
there. So to the south, as you enter Inner Temple, are Inner Temple Gardens, covering 3 acres. Now that was interesting to suddenly put an acre into perspective, because coming from the countryside or whatever, I've always heard of acres. I've always thought they were huge, but actually, I suppose that 1 acre was the size of that thing that we saw, which is actually 3 acres.
Well, no, but you know in
it's good to get that.
You know in the song "I've Got a Brand New Combine Harvester" by the Wurzels.
Yeah.
He goes, "I've got 30 acres," or "You've got 30 acres," and "I've got 34," or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 30 is quite. There's only 8.
Well, just got to times those 3 that we saw by 10.
Yeah.
And that's a small farm. You put that together with another 30.
Yeah.
Still not a huge farm, not compared to like the American farms, but it's still we'd be doing all right. This Inner Temple Gardens is one of the city's most attractive open spaces, and as noted by Dickens and Barnaby Rudge, "Who enters here leaves noise behind." But we had already left noise behind. The gates date from 1730 and are adorned with the figures of a griffin and Pegasus, taken respectively from the coats of arms of Gray's Inn and Inner Temple, which have historically had close ties. All along the walk, you'll frequently see the arms of each inn. Arms, that means the badge, the coat of arms. Yeah. Look out also for the sheep of Middle Temple.
Yes.
And the rampant red lion. I didn't see that.
I did, sorry, yeah.
So you saw them all, did you?
Yeah.
Of Lincoln's Inn. The gardens are normally open to the public on weekdays, 12:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. They weren't open for us. So we were sitting on the eastern side, which is known as King's Bench Walk. The buildings dating largely from the 1670s. Anyway, look. It's the King's Bench Walk. There's a picture of it. I think that's what the steps you were sitting on.
Yeah.
The buildings dating largely from the 1670s and designed by Sir Christopher Wren. If you look at the entrance to each building, you will see the list of barristers who form a set of chambers. 11 King's Bench Walk chambers was founded by Alexander Irvine in 1981 and counted
arsehole and cunt.
You can't remember?
Yeah.
Well, that was Tony and Sherry Blair among its early barristers. In 1997, Blair, as Prime Minister, appointed his former boss Irvine as Lord Chancellor. Another Inner Temple chose a political career over. Another Inner Templar chose a political career over a legal one. Mohandas Gandhi, 1869 to 1948. Now, is that Mahatma Gandhi?
Well, this is what I don't understand, because that's what I said at the time. I said, "Do you mean Mahatma Gandhi?" And you said, "Oh, in here it says What does it say?
Mohandas.
Mohandas. I don't understand that.
I think it's the same guy. The great Indian nationalist was called to the bar in 1891, although disbarred in 1922 following a conviction for sedition. He was posthumously reinstated in 1988. Ahead is the paper buildings. It's not made of paper, and we did see a huge troop of people going in there, and you said that's one of them was famous or something.
Well, I know. I thought he looked like he might be
Off the telly somehow.
Yeah, but on kind of closer inspection, he wasn't.
I thought he was.
Maybe he was. Maybe he was.
Why have I got this spinning fucking wheel of? Oh. Okay. Right. This is a crash. Well, anyway, ahead is the paper buildings, originally constructed in 1610, although the current buildings date from 1838. In Dickens' Barnaby Rudge, again, the character Sir John Chester lived here. In addition to featuring in many novels, Inner Temple has also had many members who have become more famous as writers, including John Mortimer, creator of Horace Rumpole, of Rumpole of the Bailey. Did you ever watch that?
I had Leo McKern, who was also in The Prisoner, actually.
Ah.
Yeah, he was a number 2 for a while.
Right. Did you... This is what happens when you spill coffee on your laptop.
GB.
So annoying to spill it. Right. Let's try and do this again. There we go, that's part of it. That's one half. Oh, well, anyway, yeah, that's the people. That's the last remnants of the people. So that was the paper buildings. The photos don't necessarily do it justice. It's this,
well, you can't really see the whole square, but it's it's an interesting place.
It's just in the centre of London to dip into this
complex.
Yeah. Also, Bram Stoker went there, and also possibly the poet Geoffrey Chaucer. To the right are Inner Temple Hall. I don't know what that... That's not... Well, before that there was this funny building with the... it's got a Pegasus on the as a weather vane. Now, I don't quite know what that... He didn't in the book he doesn't name all the buildings. So this is a building with a Pegasus for that is a big weather vane, isn't it?
Yep.
That's big. I mean, look, it's all this way back here, and you can. It's that big. That's a big old weather vane. So we don't quite know. He didn't name all the buildings. So. Inner Temple Hall. There you go. There's another one as well. Yeah. So, kind of. Oh, look, there you go. That's the gist. Inner Temple Hall, the Treasury and the Library. Each inn has its own hall, normally closed to the public, where examinations are held, as well as the ceremonies in which students are called to the bar, and formal dinners. That's probably a formal lunch that those people were going to. Students have to attend a certain number of dinners each year as part of their qualifications. Like much of Inner Temple, the hall is a neo-Georgian reconstruction from the 1950s, following terrible damage inflicted during the Blitz. Ahead is the... Now, we had to nip around up an alley and all the rest of it sort of thing to get to the next spot, so to speak. Sorry, listener, if this is a little bit confusing, because in his book he says ahead is the distinctive round nave of Temple Church, and then he just goes on to describe Temple Church. But we had to nip down these little corridor things, didn't we, to kind of get to it. It was a little bit confusing, but we got there. And for me, this was one of the highlights, if not the highlight, ultimate highlight. You know, because I do like the Knights Templar. And what we're about to... Look, I've got all loads of pictures here of this. That was the first thing we saw, wasn't it? This kind of... And you were like, instantly, you were like, oh, they must have used this in films. I'll just get on to the... I'll just read the bump and then we can discuss. Ahead's the distinctive round nave of Temple Church. This church is the only substantial remnant of the Knights Templars' occupation of the area and was built by them to resemble the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. I'm not sure if he says it in here because that's where they took over that place as their base in Jerusalem.
The Knights Templar?
Yeah, where Solomon had... oh no, well maybe that's not where that one... They took over Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. The church, recently featured in Dan Brown's best-selling book, The Da Vinci Code, is shared by both Inner and Middle Temple. It was consecrated in 1185 by Heraclius, Patriarch of Jerusalem, during the reign of Henry II. Now, when we were there, I said, oh, that's the leper king of Jerusalem. I was wrong.
Yeah.
The leper king, the patriarch, the leper king of Jerusalem was Baldwin.
Oh, right.
Who features in the Ridley Scott film. But in that, he wears a mask to cover the leprosy.
But you said he didn't wear a mask.
Apparently, in real life, he didn't. He didn't wear a
out.
mask. He let it all melt. He let it all melt out. Yes, he let it all melt out. I was looking online if there's a decent book about him, but it doesn't seem that there is a really decent one. But I still feel like looking into him a bit more. During the reign of Henry II, despite much rebuilding over the centuries, including after the Blitz, it remains a fascinating place. The 13th century effigies of Templar knights are the most striking feature. Now that's what you see when you go inside. There is also a stairwell which contains a former cell where disobedient knights were held and it's said sometimes starved to death. And we couldn't go inside, it was shut.
Yeah.
But I have looked into it, and actually that might be another thing to do next week. Because as I said when I was there, I would like to go even to a service, or if they do music recitals there, to hear the music. So anyway, you can go down. It's got visiting days to nose around everything, and also musical days.
Yeah.
And sometimes they combine them too.
Well, this is the thing actually, because because I wasn't familiar with when we first walked in, I didn't know about the INNS as it was, but this particular bit I had seen before, and I think it was on a David Icke where David Icke does a kind of does a tour of all the kind of
lizard hotspots.
The lizard hotspots, and this features.
Really? Did he even go inside?
He didn't go inside. He goes, I'm standing outside, of course the Knights Templar. He goes on about the Knights Templar. But yeah, that I had seen it from there.
This might be my chance to drop my David Icke story in, but just in a future episode, let that be a cliffhanger. I've got some David Icke I could tell you. But anyway, so I definitely want to go down. I'm not I'm not a religious person, but I do get the vibe of the past and the Templars, and I would love to go in there, and I don't mind specifically medieval style Christian music where it's all the voices.
Oh, the sackbut.
Well, they do voices. The ones, because I've been looking up Ursula,
Right.
Ursula, and she's got a lot of music.
Yeah.
And it's always medieval. Oh,
Yeah.
It sounds like women, but it's little boys, isn't it? Yeah.
Have you heard ancient? What's it called? Ancient FM or something. I've got it saved as one of my favourite radio stations.
Alright. So, let's skip through some of these photos.
Ancient FM.
No, I haven't. What is
Yeah,
it?
it's a Canadian station that just plays ancient music.
I don't want to get hit with a copyright strike.
Oh, okay. What?
Yeah, alright. So, yeah, you go through these.
I picked one.
You go through these kind of. What do you call them? Pillars.
Well, I thought they were called
Pillars.
cloisters. They're
Right.
Not, they're not. Are they cloisters?
It don't matter. You go through these, and then you're in this courtyard thing, and there
it is. Look at those turrets.
Yes.
It's like when you get a. What do they call them in chess?
Castle.
I think it's just a castle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like one of those.
Yeah. No, it's fucking great.
And then you got the statue,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah, it is.
because they were famed for their frugality, weren't they?
I'm just about to. Yes, you're right. Yes. So outside the church is a column marking where the Great Fire of 1666 finally stopped. Now, obviously, the Templars were long gone by then, but somebody put it finally stopped on the western side of the city, and the statue of the two knights riding a single horse commemorates the Templars' frugality. I can get that, but some people, because they always had this symbol, some people I think have probably used it to suggest, like,
What?
fucking,
Ride my horsey.
fucking, pufters. You know what I mean? Two blokes on one horse.
Oh, right. Two men, one horse.
The order's original title was the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ, and the later Templar name was derived from the fact the Knights' first headquarters was situated on the ruins of Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. There you go. Where, legend has it, they spent a long time digging for something that nobody knows about. Whether that's true or just Dan Brown stuff, I don't know. Well, there's a book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, which a lot of this stuff comes from. I never read it. But apparently it gave birth to a lot of these conspiracy type things. And they also are supposed to have the skull of the Templars were supposed to have the skull of if not Saint Ursula herself, one of her virgins that got beheaded all the way back in ancient times, which I discovered the other day. So yeah, this. I mean, it's, of course, that stuff would be, you could do a whole series about all that sort of stuff. But anyway, it's a wonderful area, okay? Although it's not all original 11th century.
Well,
brick.
this is what I discovered after I tried to get a little memento.
You sure you want to say this?
Well, it's a.
I mean, it was
like there was a bit of if you touch this stone, there was a kind of crust on it that was sort of coming away. And I just pressed against it and it kind of fell into my hand. So I thought I'd just, have a little bit of this ancient building, a little tiny memento sort of thing. But then we went round the other side of it and found out that it was all, that part wasn't ancient anyway.
Yeah, this part that we were looking at was not truly the ancient part. But look, did you see that photo? That's
Yeah.
The other one as well. But that is the original.
Yeah.
But you can't get to that.
No.
You can't get to that. Only if you go inside, which we will do maybe next week. Let's see. Seeing as I can't go down to my parents now, so I don't have to worry about that. So, Continue on to the southwest side to Elm Court. That's quite a nice photo. That's inside. Oh yeah, look, this is inside as well. You've got these funny, look at these faces. Look at this one. That's inside as well. I wanted to be a gargoyle man.
That's right. Yeah, you told me.
Yeah, but
Stonemason.
Yeah, but only so that I could do gargoyles.
Gargoyle.
Yeah. This is the plaque that he's about. Oh no, that's not. But, this is the plaque. Continue on to the southwest side to Elm Court, where a plaque on the wall to the left indicates this is once part of the original Templar buttery or food store. Continue west onto Middle Temple Lane, where most of the Inn of Middle Temple can be found on the other side. So that's Middle Temple Lane, looking down it. It gets even quieter now. Now you really are in...
And then we move, as we cross over, we're moving into the Lamb house.
Now we're about to come to something called Middle Temple Hall. Now the trouble is that we were on there on a Sunday, so we couldn't go in. And apparently you can go in. So you get a bit of an info. It's not a great picture. In fact, I'm not even sure if it's a picture of... I have to say, I'm not even sure if it's a picture of what we should be talking about. But what Beamish and I can't really convey is the atmosphere. You know, it was just so quiet and peaceful and concentrated without overthinking, if you see what I mean. It was a sort of an area that's kind of concentrating, isn't it? I don't know if I'm doing it justice. Middle Temple Hall, it dates from 1573 and is one of the best examples of an Elizabethan hall in the country, boasting a fine double hammer beam ceiling. It has served as the heart of activities in Middle Temple for more than 400 years. One of its most notable features is the 29 feet long bench table, thought to have been a gift from Elizabeth I and cut from a single oak tree from her estate at Windsor. The benchers who run the Middle Temple still dine here, just as they did when Sir Francis Drake arrived to a huge welcome in August 1586. Hurrah, he returns! Upon his return from a successful expedition against the Spanish Indies, also bringing back with him the survivors of Sir Walter Raleigh's colony in Virginia. Drake was a regular visitor, and the cupboard, a small table in front of the bench table where newly called barristers stand to sign the register, is thought to have been carved from the hatch cover of Drake's Golden Hind. The Heinz Lantern hung in the entrance to the hall until it was destroyed during the Blitz in 1941. Shakespeare's play Twelfth Night was premiered in the hall in 1602. During this period, it was fashionable for the offspring of the wealthier classes to spend some time studying at one of the inns, even if they never intended to pursue a career in the law. As a result, the students were a cosmopolitan bunch who often excelled in artistic pursuits. It was therefore entirely natural that London's greatest playwright would premiere a new play to an appreciative audience of lawyers. Another literary connection relates to the stained glass window in the hall that contains the shields of... Now, can you remember, Mr. Beamish?
Not the lamp.
Like you and I, two sides of a, Beamish, Baleful.
Oh, what, the masks?
No.
I don't know.
Famous horror. Mild-mannered man by day, drinks a little potion.
Oh, yes, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Another literary connection relates to the stained glass window in the hall that contains the shields of Josephus Jekyll and Robertus Hyde. The writer Robert Louis Stevenson, a Middle Templar, may have taken these names for the main characters of his novel The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The hall contains original paintings of Queen Elizabeth I, said to have dined here many times, Charles I and II, James II, William III, Queen Anne and George I. In the days of the British Empire, lawyers often came here from the colonies to train before returning home. 5 Middle Templars were among the original signatories of the American Declaration of Independence, while 7 more helped draft the Constitution of the United States. Americans often received their legal training at the inns even after the country became independent, and this tradition only stopped when England went to war with America in 1812. The hall is normally open to the public Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. So, right, I'm going to make a roll up now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As you enter this bit, the little kind of coat of arms changes from the Pegasus into the lamb with a cross kind of coming out its back.
What happened to all the Rizzlers?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. How did they get all the way over there?
I don't know.
Right. So I feel like we're not conveying the atmosphere, but it's impossible. It's impossible.
I'd definitely like to go back and go in there because it sounds like there's a lot of
This is
good
another a revisit, and this is definitely another revisit and a deeper dive.
Yeah, and definitely if you want to go, don't go on a Sunday because most like these bits are closed.
Unless you're only going for peace and quiet.
Yeah.
Because you are far from the madding crowd, and as you'll find out later, then something that I thought was very magical happened. But we need to come to that. But I'm just got to make this roll up. Shout out Liam. Shout out Sophie. His mate, Sophie Ironmonger. Do you know her?
I'm not. The name's familiar. I'm not sure.
Yeah, in Germany. Shout out to those two. Shout out Max and Nipper, obviously. By the way, this one is a total recommend. You know, without any this particular walk. So, leave the hall and head south down the lane to reach Middle Temple Gardens. The gardens, with their red and white rose border, well, this is January, so there were no roses out, were portrayed by Shakespeare in Henry VI Part 1. Which, funny enough, I've been dropping into a library and for appointments and just picking that up and reading a bit while I wait. So, where the red rose of Lancaster and the white rose of York were first plucked, marking the beginnings of the English War of the Roses, 1455 to 1485. Now, there's a little bit of he quotes Shakespeare's play here. And I will do the first part, and Beamish will do the second part. So now, a little bit of Shakespeare for you, dear listener. Since you are tongue-tied and so loath to speak, in dumb significant proclaim your thoughts. Let him that is a true-born gentleman and stands upon the honour of his birth, if he suppose that I have pleaded truth, from off this briar pluck a white rose with me, says Plantagenet. Somerset then says, get into the light. Can you see that?
Let him that is no coward, nor no flatterers, but dare maintain the party of the truth, pluck a red rose off his thorn with me. Off this thorn with me.
Right. So there you go. Thank you very much. To the round of applause. The gardens were once home to the Royal Horticultural Society Great Spring Show during the 19th century, before moving west and becoming today's Chelsea Flower Show. Head north along the Middle Temple Lane. And he just says here, until you reach the Strand. But that isn't what happens. He doesn't like that. And if I don't, because it's such a good walk, I hesitate to put the boot into the guy. We all know what we know. That he hasn't actually walked these bloody walks. Right? But what happens is you are in this secluded oasis of peace and quiet and calm, and there's a lot more to actually see than he mentions here, like the wilting trees,
Yes.
the big pond
Yep.
that's dedicated to somebody or other. So that's Dickens or something. It's got a Dickens quote on it or something. Hasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
You know, you could spend all day in there, to be honest. Take a book, picnic. But then you walk up this middle lane, and basically you're confronted with a wooden wall.
Yeah, like a big sort of gatehouse sort of thing.
Yeah, and
It looks like kind of impenetrable. And it almost was. Remember, you couldn't get through the door.
we couldn't get through it until, I think it was you, pulled luckily on the right thing.
Oh, yeah, and then it just swung open.
Does it swing inwards or outwards?
I can't remember.
This door swings open. And you step through it, and
Yeah.
then you're straight out
You're
onto
opposite the courts of justice. And
onto bustling the Strand.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
bustling and bustling.
yeah.
And you never. It's like a door from one dimension into another. It's like something from Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings or something. You just go from
It's like a portal.
a portal from complete tranquility and calm into sudden bustle and hustle and
Motor cars.
motor cars, big fat ladies.
Big fat ladies. Taxis. People trying to get to the British Museum.
Yes. So that moment was a standout moment for me
Yeah.
as well. Just suddenly, it was magical. In
The contrast
yeah, the
was
contrast.
palpable.
And powerful.
Yeah.
And powerful. So, let's get this lit. Right. Listener, I can tell that you can't wait to hear what happens next. Until you reach the Strand, on the other side are the Royal Courts of Justice, which were opened in 1882 by Queen Victoria. 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 And where are we? It's 13. Yeah. Let me just see if I can't grab all of those now. Oh, I'll just do that row. Yep. Okay. Alright. There's the photos anyway. So Queen Victoria, only 4'11", and housed the Supreme Court. This consists of the High Court of Justice, principally dealing with civil cases, and the Court of Appeal. Before 1882, London's main courts were dotted around the capital, including at Westminster Hall and the Old Hall of Lincoln's Inn. Over 35 million bricks were used in the construction of the royal courts. Each faced with Portland stone. You can visit the courts during working hours, although it's easy to get lost among the 1,000 rooms that are arranged along 3.5 miles of corridors. The building is so large that man was once found living in the basement. Lists show what cases are taking place each day. Blah, blah, blah. So then he talks about visiting. Just outside the courts on the eastern side is the statue of a dragon, symbol of the city, which marks the former site of Temple Bar. Now it's at this moment, when out of nowhere, this big fat lady appeared. And as I was trying to read from the book, and we was being slightly confused, she stopped what she was doing, and she started, of the goodness of her heart, she was a horsey lady, a country style lady, it seemed to me, as happy mucking out the horses as doing whatever she has to do at the British Museum. That's how she seemed to me. She was a ruddy, hardy woman.
Well, no, because we were discussing how to get somewhere, and she sort of knew instantly. She goes, "Oh yes, you want to go down there."
Well, let me read this. A statue of a dragon, symbol of the city, which marks the former site of the Temple Bar. This was a this was a gateway on the western side of the city. Its name derived from a chain or bar between posts that marked the entrance in medieval times. By tradition, the monarch could not pass through the Temple Bar on official business, and this is where she jumped in and said, "Oh yes, they took that away. The original one that's been taken away because buses couldn't get through, and it's been put down somewhere else now." But what happened, according to the book, is originally it went to the countryside, and now it's been brought back and put up to this.
St Paul.
Yes.
And, the spikes.
We're coming to that. But she wasn't there at that bit. Anyway, she was a very nice lady. And then she said, "Enjoy your thing." And I said, "Well, we're doing a history tour." She said, "Oh, I know all about it here. I used to live
in the
Inns of Court."
Yeah.
Which I said, "Oh, we've just done that. It was great." She goes, "Yes.
Because I was there from like 82 to 87 or something.
Yeah. And then she was, "Oh, here's me. This is what I need, a taxi." And I looked, and it was one of those
Stretch limo.
stretch limos that fucking Essex girls get, And I goes, "That's not a taxi." And she goes, "No, but that is." And I looked, and it was a bus, and then it was a taxi. And then she jumped in a taxi, and she was a big, round woman, and this little skinny man jumped in next to her, and she said to the taxi driver, "British Museum, please." And they were off, and that was that. So, but that was a very a good moment, a very good moment indeed. And then I was looking forward to this bit that I'm about to say next, because I know that Beamish has certain tastes, if you see what I mean. The gateway was rebuilt in 1672 by Sir Christopher Wren, whilst other gateways in the city had been removed by 1761. Temple Bar survived until 1878, when it was dismantled in order to reduce traffic congestion on Fleet Street. It was moved to a country estate outside London, but has recently been returned to the capital and now stands beside St Paul's Cathedral. The gateway still retains the spikes upon which the heads of executed traitors were placed, heavily salted beforehand to prevent the birds picking at them.
And that's the origin of beer snacks. No, not really. Yeah, no, they would salt the
That's an inside joke, because we were joking on the walk about, "I'll have my head salted, please."
Yeah, so the severed heads were salted before being put on the spike to prevent the birds from picking the eyeballs out and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I've not. Do birds hate salt or something? Do they?
Well, I reckon if you put loads of it on, I imagine they must have had like a real kind of crusted.
But then if it's that salty,
salty
can you
crust.
see the head? Can you see the grimace of pain? Can you see
Well, I
that?
don't know. I guess the salt will probably wash off after a few rainstorms, but I guess it keeps them fresh for a while.
About a week.
Yeah.
If it's a nice week in the summer. Do you think that we should bring this back? The severed heads of.
Oh, I
criminals?
think so. Yeah, I think it would be great.
Do you think it works as a deterrent?
Most definitely. Yeah.
But a traitor is to be a traitor takes a little bit more commitment than being an ordinary thief, doesn't it? So if you're a traitor, if you're that committed to your cause that you're a traitor, is a severed head actually going to put you off?
Well, I think it should serve as a reminder to the general public. I think that's the thing.
It tells the general public, look, we are
Yeah.
working for you.
Yeah, look, this is what happens.
We're working for you.
Yeah,
We're doing our jobs.
Well, not only that, but just this could be you if you step out of line.
Yeah, but I'm saying is when you're committed to be a traitor,
Yeah.
you don't care. It's like a traitor is, no, I'm risking everything.
Perhaps, I don't know.
I'm glad we haven't have we had a suicide bomber over here? Or not? We haven't, have we? Or we might have had
Well,
a
we've had
couple of attempted ones.
we had the school, what's his name?
Oh Christ, that cunt! Yeah. No, the concert one in Manchester.
Yeah, and there was another guy.
Dickhead.
Remember Hungerford?
Yeah, was it? But yeah, you ruined that. Cunt ruined your dad's business.
That's right. Yeah.
Crossover to the start of Chancery Lane. Actually, I very much enjoyed having my attention, because I have walked down this street a few times, and I did very much enjoy having my attention, placed upon this particular statue with Queen Victoria and a dragon on it. I liked it.
Yeah, it's a nice juxtaposition of the old dragon and the old dragon.
Yeah, two old dragons. And there was a nice. Oh, I haven't got it here, but there was a nice skull on it. Actually, I don't. There it is, right there. If I go in close, there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Skull. Apparently, she was a real goer. She loved it. She loved the old rumpy pumpy. They had her and her husband had a special thing devised so that they could just press the button on their bed, which locked all the doors to the room.
Really?
Yeah, so that nobody could get in.
Well, I know she mourned him for like decades.
But then until
That
she
guy
went
came
to,
along, the Scottish
Billy
guy.
Connolly concert.
Yeah, that's right.
What's that? She met Billy Connolly.
Mr. Brown, or whatever his name was.
What? And he
rekindled her.
he managed to water a garden.
Yeah,
Again.
yeah.
It got been dry for a while, and he managed to water it again. I've not seen the film. Have you?
No, I haven't seen it, no,
Oh.
but I know the story.
Crossover to the start of Chancery Lane. On the right at number 5 is a plaque marking the former location of the now defunct Sergeant's Inn. It's not a great photo, but where? Right. Oh, there we are, Sergeant's Inn. Let's do drag that. Open. There's the plaque. Not. I mean, you can see for yourself, reader, listener, watcher, with the yellow things around it. But anyway, the sergeants at law were a superior rank of barrister that originated in the Middle Ages. A barrister, upon being appointed as a sergeant, had to leave their own inn of court and join the sergeant's inn. Judges were appointed from the small band of sergeants, and this monopoly lasted until the late 19th century, when legal reforms made this rank of lawyer obsolete. The last remaining sergeants sold their inn at number 5 in 1877 for a vast sum, and they each then returned to the inn of court to which they had originally belonged. To get back to the idea of atmosphere and stuff like that, it's like, as a Londoner or even a tourist, you might just I've passed through this area on walks before, just thinking, oh, this is just grey brick, grey, without thinking about it, without looking up, without just seeing it as a transitionary state, but this walk made you stop, made you look up and around, and it turned what could seem like just a bare skeleton. It put flesh on the bones. I felt if you take a small detour just west down Fleet Street on the left, you can see the old entrance to Clifford's Inn. And we did do that. There's the we're up there. Oh, Clifford's Inn, and we went because Beamish insisted. We went through the door, and I'm very glad he did. We did. I haven't got any photos of it though. But can you describe what happened when we went through the door?
Well, you go through that little kind of gateway, and it's the actual gateway itself is the oldest part. But when you get through there, you can.
Clifford's Inn is one of the defunct inns of Chancery. These inns were founded in the late medieval period and were always the poor relations of the main inns of the court. In those days, it was very difficult to join one of the inns of court, so students would often join one of the inns of Chancery to begin their studies. However, it was not possible to be called to the bar at an inn of the Chancery, so students would later try to move on to one of the more prestigious inns of court. Over the centuries, it became easier to join in blah, blah, blah. No, whatever, it doesn't matter. By the 18th century, the inns of Chancery had effectively become social clubs. And look, by late 19th century, most of the inns of Chancery inns disbanded and the buildings sold on. Clifford's Inn was founded in around 1345, and the main building survived until the early 20th century. The entrance off Fleet Street is the only remaining part that can be seen today. So that's from 1345. That door, that stone. And maybe the door as well? Not sure. Certainly the stone. It's from 1345. I'm going to skip that. Continue up Chancery Lane, where on the right is the vast building that served as the public record office from the 1860s until 1996. Today it's the library for King's College, and we walked in there, and there was reading from the book is not conveying the sights of looking up at what is basically a kind of Disney prince and princess set, isn't it? When you look up,
yeah, I mean it's quite impressive for a library.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive indeed. We so headquarters of the institution that governs the solicitor's profession. In recent years, it's become possible for solicitors to become advocates in the English courts, and so the traditional demarcation line between barristers and solicitors has become slightly blurred. At this point, I'm going to do the only pause because I feel it's time to go to the shop. And I'm going to actually pause because we're about halfway now. So we'll just say again, listener, that our words and these pictures don't do it justice. And I think that's what proves that it's one of the great walks, because as I'm talking about it, I know that I'm not getting it across.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway,
but pictures will suffice.
They will have to suffice for now. Right, how do I pause it? Just
release pause.
Yeah, I've got to do a dump. I didn't need the number.
You remembered it?
I just tapped.
Oh yeah, of course. Cheers.
Oh, look, there you go, look. See? Right. I've got to do the dumper. I didn't dump, right? Yeah, and then I wiped my ass, and then as you do, I looked back in the bowl,
Yep.
and the toilet roll was laying on top, but this little
Not sure if I want to know.
head of this turd was sticking out, right?
Right.
But it looked like it had a little eye and a little smiley mouth. It was like this of a lizard, of a little of a lizard from ancient times.
Fascinating.
Did you get your cigarette?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Can I have one?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was £10 these were.
It's not bad actually.
Yeah,
They're
except
really tiny ones, aren't they? But they're
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. Little titty wax.
Children's cigarettes.
I don't mind. I hate Super Kings. And that's really trampy.
That's fine.
That's right. My dad used to smoke Super Kings.
What? They're the longer ones, are they?
Yeah. Get extra fag. I think that's like stupid.
It's funny how we've just taken a break at a moment, just moments before in the actual walk we took a break.
Yeah.
The next site we saw was the oldest tailor in London, Eden Ravenscroft. There you go. Gowns, regalia and hoods. That's the better photo, I think. Situated at number 97 Chancery Lane, operating since 1689, it is the traditional outfitter to barristers working at the inns. The famous wigs worn by barristers can be bought here with prices starting at around £500. But if you turned up with a £500 one, that people would be looking at you, oh, that looks like, it's got a £500 wig. And they would know. They would just know, wouldn't they? They were originally made out of human hair. So what's that from? Executed people, or people would sell their hair?
I've no idea.
Probably a bit of both. But in the 1830s, Humphrey Ravenscroft patented the current design, which uses horsehair. Head towards Chichester Rents and then through Star Yard. Now, just before we get to where we had our rest, we came to another highlight for Beamish. Oh, before that, apparently we saw a pub was closed because people were starting at this point to start going, I need a little bit of a sit down, a little bit of a, you know what I mean, a little bit of gathering myself. But we couldn't go into that one because it was closed for the wedding of Ruth and Gary, and we hope that went well. There we go. There we go. What is this, Beamish?
This is one of the oldest public toilets in London. And
Well, the whole of London is a public toilet,
well,
but this is a Victorian public toilet.
yeah, and it's still standing, and it's in fairly good condition actually, considering. But it's quite notable because it appears in the 1960s film "The London That Nobody Knows," which is stars and is narrated by James Mason. And in this, if you watch the film, when this toilet is featured, it has the toilet attendant is keeping goldfish in the water tank of one of the toilets.
And James Mason plays that. He puts on the outfit of a toilet attendant. Does he?
I don't think so. Well, I can't remember.
Okay.
It's a while since.
But you do. That's one of your favourite films.
It's not one of my favourite. It's a very good film. I mean, if you're interested at all in the history of London, I would definitely recommend watching it because it's, it covers all the things that we've covered almost and more. So yeah, definitely worth a look.
A gander.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, the clip that you sent me was good. I liked that.
Yeah, there's the clip of Chapel Street Market in Islington, and it's
which we visited on a previous walk.
Yeah, but it's intercut with some very kind of nice sort of music, concrete.
But the market isn't like that anymore. It's all fucking. All they sell in the market is a tat now, really.
It's a shadow of its former self. Yeah,
it's not even. Shadow is putting it kindly. I mean, now you just get, 5 clipper lighters for £1, king size Rizzlers.
Yeah, usual old tat that you see on any old market, but it used to be like a thronging meeting place when it was like.
Well, you could buy a pan that would last you for 20 years.
You can buy anything. There's like eels for sale. Yeah, it's got the old pie. I mean, the pie mash shop is still there. Though not sure if it still sells pie mash. But
I've never done pie and mash. But you have, haven't you?
Of course.
What have you had? Jelly deals.
I've had the whole lot.
What's jelly deals like?
Mate.
What's jelly deals like?
Not very pleasant. Well, I don't know. I mean, you could probably get into it.
But what do you have? Do you have jelly deals with mash?
You can have it with mash if you want, but you normally have it. When I had it, I ate it out of like a polystyrene cup. Like they serve it in a polystyrene cup.
What does it taste like then?
It's like have you ever had eel?
No.
Well, eel is it's quite a nourishing chunk of meat, but they serve it in this. Yeah, it comes in like this clear.
Is it hot
jelly.
or cold?
Cold. Very cold.
Sounds horrible. Continue along Carey Street. Now, we got a little bit confused here, or at least I did. I was getting a little bit dizzy. I'm not going to blame it on this guy with his directions. When I say this guy, I mean the guy who wrote the book. But we did find ourselves at the 7 Stars pub, where we decided to sit down. And then we decided to sit down at this pub before we even saw it was in the book. And then, it's in the book.
Yeah.
Popular with lawyers since it was founded 400 years ago. And a good place to stop if you want to see them letting their horsehair wigs down. And it was packed.
Yeah.
It was rammed. It's a small pub.
It's tiny, and it's full of, like a kind of judicial kind of ephemera.
And lawyer types.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had 2 photos of that. I have got 2 photos.
Yeah, there's all kinds of like engravings and prints and stuff all over the walls.
And I managed to run into the landlady.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a fucking kraken. She was something else. Up the stairs I went to the toilet, up the very steep stairs to the toilet, and then there was a room to the right, stacked high with cat food, and there were these. I could see one fat lady, and she was talking to somebody else. Sounded like they were talking about Rosemary's Baby. Going, oh, isn't she lovely? Isn't she? And all of that. Dawned on me they were talking about a cat. They were cooing over a cat. Hence all the cat food. Anyway, I poked my head in to ask for directions, blah, blah, blah. Found myself face to face with this huge battle axe of a kraken of a woman who goes, yes, I do know the area well, seeing as this is my pub. I think she's got a couple of bodies behind her, if you know what I mean. That she might have. Oh, how is this? I could sense that she's from the street, that she's not posh. So I'm like, well, how did she get hold of this place? By hook or by crook, as they say. But anyway, that was interesting. Then I went to the toilet. I enjoyed the poster in there.
Yeah, what can you remember? What it was a funny. Well, it wasn't laugh out loud funny. It was a play on words.
If then what is if a da-da-da-da-da is a da-da-da, then what is da-da without a dress on? A solicitor. The punchline was a solicitor, and it revolved around a lady in her knickers, didn't it? I think.
Briefs.
Then what is a lady without any briefs? A solicitor.
Yeah, that's right.
Should have taken a photo of him, I suppose. I did actually think about it at the time, but I couldn't be bothered. But it was a nice stop off, and it had these two heads in the window, which made us think of the severed heads on
spikes.
On the spikes.
The salted heads.
Salted heads on the spikes.
But yeah, nice stop off.
Yeah, nice little spot. And then it was beginning to get dark, and this is where we ran into we came upon the first of our dead ends, so to speak. So enter Lincoln's Inn through the gateway which leads to the south side of New Square. Now this is, I think this is badly described. The map's a bit funny as well. This is perhaps the best preserved of all the inns of court. Covers around 11 acres. Past members have included Sir Thomas More, Oliver Cromwell, John Donne, William Pitt, Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair. But you couldn't get into this, basically. And we walked up and we saw this, well, I don't want to say he was scary, but he had an aura around him. This guy, turns out he was a security guard. He had a certain aura. Look, okay, he was old, he was grey, he was portly. He was still clearly deadly. We surmised he's probably ex-SAS.
No verification for this, just based on his looks alone.
Which one? So which? No, it wasn't just this. No, there was an aura around him.
Yeah.
Of like,
I'm a fucking hard bastard.
I am fucking hard.
Yeah.
He had this aura of like, I am fucking hard. Because I remember I walked up to him. He didn't take any step backward at all. He was just in his thing. He was not phased at all by any of it. Anything. Even when I got the torch out and was like that.
Yeah, probably pull a dagger out and stab you in the neck without even flinching.
Or just like, right,
Yeah, quick jab in the eyes.
Take your eyes out with his fingers. Bring you to your knees. Then a fucking knee in your throat. Jesus Christ. This guy would be a problem to anybody, right? But we turned on charm, and he told us that basically where we were supposed to go, you can't go to, so not this time on a Sunday, which he does not describe in the bloody book, that, or at least not till right at the end of it, that particular passage. So I don't know if I should read through all of that we weren't allowed to go to or do it. Well, Lincoln's Inn official records begin in 1422, 80 years before the other three inns. However, like the other inns, it was probably in evidence far earlier. The name is derived from Henry de Lacy, 3rd Earl of Lincoln. He was probably the inn's first great patron and lived in nearby Shoe Lane. I would like to go to Shoe Lane. It is worth taking a few minutes just to walk up and down the centre of the inn, which is open to the public during weekday lunchtimes. We were saying that a criticism of the book would be that at the beginning of each walk, he should sort of specify this, because a lot of people are going to be doing Sunday walks.
Yeah.
Especially, who aren't on their holidays, who are locals. They're going to go, well, I'll do it as a Sunday.
Yeah.
And then it seems oftentimes on a Sunday you're going to walk into a brick wall a few times. And we had to retrace our steps. which was sad because on the eastern side is the old buildings, which is the old hall, built in 1490s, during which time Sir Thomas More, he who wrote the classic of philosophy, Utopia, which I haven't read. There's a nice statue of him there, who ended up getting murdered by Henry VIII. You can feel the heat, can't you, coming up from that thing? Yeah. I've put a hot water bottle on the floor, dear listener, because it's cold in my apartment. There he is. He ended up getting killed by Henry VIII. He wrote the classic of philosophy, Utopia, which I've never read. And he talks about the paintings in this area. The Old Hall used to be one of London's main courts and features in the opening scene of Dickens' Bleak House in connection with the fictional case of so-and-so versus so-and-so. And there's a big... I'm not going to read the quote. There's quite a bit about Dickens here in the book. I'm not going to read all that. And the case, we had to a great hall and library, a chapel, all of which we missed because we had to go back on ourselves. So I'm just going to skip that. It is interesting, but
we didn't see it, so
I'll just be reading it from the book.
Yeah, it's like we
so
can't really talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. Just going to read it from the book.
So don't go on a Sunday. Don't go on a Sunday.
Well,
which should be the beginning of this chapter.
But the trouble is, a Sunday is going to be the only opportunity some people have to do these walks.
Yeah.
Unless you're, a genuine tourist, so to speak. So we had to head back and and then we found ourselves at the gatehouse, which was good again. Head east. So if we had been able to go the way that he wanted us to go, we would have walked out and found ourselves at the gatehouse. Whereas we had to walk back round the way we come, back up Chancery Lane to the gatehouse. Let me just find the picture. Oh, what's going on here? Thomas? Oh. What happened? No, sorry, Thomas More. How can I jump? Oh, I've jumped from 23 to 35 there in my... Sorry, listener, that's... the gatehouse. I don't have a photo of it right here. I will try to find one. This was built around 1520 in an oak door estate from 1564. Legend has it that the dramatist Ben Jonson worked as a bricklayer during the construction of the gatehouse. Above the gatehouse are a number of original heraldic arms, including those of Henry de Lacy, Earl of Lincoln, and Henry VIII. And we leaned against it to try to feel, like the stone tapes, the essence of time. Stone tapes is a BBC ghost thing. To feel the essence of time coming through the ancient materials. Leave Lincoln's Lane, in to walk north up Chancery Lane through Southampton buildings. Out onto high. We saw some scavengers, didn't we?
Yeah, it was like Marks and Spencer's, I think, were chucking out their
sandwiches,
sandwiches and stuff. There was a little bit of a, few.
You said we should get some sandwiches there, and
well,
I feared a scuffle, to be honest.
I've been in similar situations, and it's normally quite.
Yeah, well, I've seen documentaries in like Savannah, Africa, where like they're trying to rip at a carcass, and
it's not quite like that in London.
Staple Inn. The building is now the only one to survive. It was very dark now. The building is the only one to survive from the now defunct Inn of Chancery described above. The front of the building dates from around 1580. and is one of the oldest structures in London. The word staple originates from a tax imposed on wool introduced in 1275, and the building was originally used by wool dealers or wool staplers. Sorry, I'm coughing. I've got a smoker's cough. From the early 15th century, the building was used by the lawyers of the Inn of Chancery and became known by its current name. Head over High Holborn, and I've gone down High Holborn quite a lot in my life, and I've never looked at the City of York pub, let alone the tiny passageway beside it, which was a pretty decent tiny passageway.
Yeah.
Which took us to
Gray's Inn.
the South Square of Graves Inn, and now I have not done what I should have done, and they're here though. Here it is. This is the site we saw.
Yeah, this is quite interesting actually, because several kind of parts of my London memory, one being Gray's Inn Road. Like I lived in King's Cross for a while when I moved to London, and I was just like on the Gray's Inn Road, and yeah, never knew what Gray's Inn was until this walk. And similarly with Chancery Lane, I'd always wondered, you know, because Chancery Lane is sort of between Holborn and Liverpool Street, and I didn't really give it much, you know, I thought it was just like a sort of nowhere place, but yeah, like all of these kind of landmarks are directly on the, you know, Chancery Lane and High Holborn.
I mean, going up here was to find an oasis of the past in, like, you know, it's a very busy, that High Holborn, you know, modern cars, beep, beep, you know, all the rest of it, everybody calling you a cunt, trying to get past you and all of this. And you nip up this little alley, this little lane that you would never notice, and suddenly you're in this, well, you're back in Georgian times, you know.
Yeah, but it's still, you know, occupied with I mean, are all the people in there, are they students, or is it just, I couldn't work it out.
Well, let's go to the book and see what he says. South Square of Gray's Inn, the final inn of the court visited on this walk. In South Square there is a statue of Sir Francis Bacon, and we did take photos but they're not very good. That's the philosopher, statesman, scientist who died in 1626, not related to Francis Bacon. Although his father, who must have been a fan, to name him Francis. If you have a son called, you know, you're Bacon, you're obviously saying something.
I guess I don't know.
But apparently this old time Sir Francis Bacon was a sodomite as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, some people say that he wrote some of Shakespeare's plays.
Yeah, that's one of the rumours. And Sir Francis Bacon, prominent member of Gray's in the 16th century. Number 1 on the South Square was once the offices of Ellis and Blackmore, where the teenage Charles Dickens worked as a law clerk in 1827. Head north into the larger Gray's Inn Square. Gray's Inn is named after Reginald de Grey, a Chief Justice whose London mansion housed the original Gray's Inn after he died in 1308. Much of the inn was damaged during World War II, although rebuilding work was tastefully done. The chapel on the south side of the square dates from 1689 and was built on the site of the inn's original chapel, built in around 1315. Beside the chapel is the hall, dating largely from 1556 to 8, although extensively renovated after the Blitz. Luckily, the glass, pictures and treasures shields have been removed to a place of safety and so returned after the war. The screen on the west side is linked to a gift from Queen Elizabeth I, made from the wood of a captured Spanish galleon. Some of the stained glass in the windows dates back to the 16th century. the 3rd Earl of Southampton, patron of William Shakespeare, was a member of Gray's Inn. This probably explains why Shakespeare's company premiered A Comedy of Errors in the hall. The inn's records state that a performance was given by a company of base and common fellows on the 28th of December 1594 during Christmas celebrations, probably with Shakespeare himself taking one of the roles. And that's when they used to wear tights and those big puffy things.
Pantaloons.
These are a big puffy thing around the crotch, like a beach ball.
I know what you mean. I don't know what they're called.
And tights. And no women were allowed to perform, so men would have performed all the male roles back in Shakespeare's time.
Well, and the female roles.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. Thanks for the correction, Beamish. This was during the golden age of Grays, when Elizabeth I, our greatest queen, was the patron lady, and many of her inner circle were members of the inn, including Admiral Lord Howard of Effingham. This was something to do with Carry On, who masterminded the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588. Sir Francis Walsingham, a key development of the Secret Service, player in the development of the Secret Service. That's interesting. I mean, there's always been a Secret Service, I imagine. They'd always try to... since the most ancient of times, you would have had a Secret Service, I think. Even Neanderthals. Meaning, you go onto that hill and look where that smoke's coming from, you know.
Well, then read the clues.
Well,
We're going to give you a secret message.
no, see if there's some other cunts down there that need a fucking drubbing, you know. On the west side, head through a narrow passage. Yes, this was good. It was all narrow passages, wasn't it? And stuff like that. Gray's Inn Gardens, better known as the Walks. Now, here we hit another dead end because of the day that we were here. Apparently, it's a lovely, lovely kind of park thing called the Walks. I did find this shitty photo of it here, which doesn't really. That's what it looks like ordinarily. And I did.
Yeah, because it's one of those places where it's saying the public are allowed in here, but it's kind of a bit hush hush.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of this walk is hush hush. Like if you're a barrister, you know all about it.
Yeah.
But like your ordinary fellow, you don't even have. If I'm a delivery boy, then maybe I know about it. But
yeah, but you probably think, I'm not allowed to be in here.
Yeah. I mean.
But you are. That's the thing.
Yes. It's one of the loveliest parts of the area of London, often overlooked by people who think access is restricted to members of Grays. Public can visit during every weekday lunchtime. The walks were first laid out by Sir Francis Bacon in 1606 when he was the treasurer of Grays, and were popular for promenading by fashionable society during the 17th century. Our old friend, Pervy Pepys, Samuel Pepys, the diarist, Peeping Pepys, the dirty diarist, in 1660, he says he went to Gray's Inn where I saw many beauties.
Was that just after coming back from Vauxhall?
I think he was out every night. And proceeded to Walks where he saw a great store of gallants, but above all, Mrs. Frances Butler is the greatest beauty. On the east side is the twisted trunk of an ancient catalapa. That's a tree, which is all that remains of a larger tree crushed during the hurricane of 1987, which is said to have been planted by Sir Francis Bacon. Now, because we couldn't go through, now we had to double back again, which was slightly annoying. And I think we cut out the next thing, Bedford Row, because it seemed like a long tangent for not very little. So we went straight on to Lincoln's Inn Fields. that's a little picture there. That's of well, let me read. I'll find it. Then we'll see. Now, Richard said that Lincoln's Inn Fields in the summer he often goes to sun himself in there. When he's not. I'm going to say that. I wasn't going to say anything particularly bad, but just don't want certain people hearing. This is London's largest square and covers 12 acres. It is said to have the same dimensions as the base of the Great Pyramid at Giza. Well, who worked that out? And why?
God
Why
knows.
would you think to...
But it's important. You should mention that this is sort of directly behind Holborn Station.
This is directly behind Holborn Station.
Yeah.
If you just want to go directly to this.
Yeah, well, I think this is a nice little spot. This place.
Yeah, if you want to go directly to this, it's directly behind Holborn Station, says Beamish. It's said to have been the inspiration for Central Park in New York. The land here consisted of rural fields before the square was laid out by Inigo Jones, 1573 to 1652, in the early 17th century. Before then, it had been a popular site for duelists and was also used for public executions.
Yeah.
In 1586, Sir Anthony Babington was half-hanged before being drawn and quartered here. This is what this picture is of him being half-hanged. And it's not... I couldn't find... this is him...
Half hanged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hanged until not dead, and then.
Because he was doing it... This picture is of him conspiring with his conspirators. What are you looking for? Well, I just bought one.
Yeah, no, I just bought one.
Is it that there? That green one?
Okay. Okay.
Half-hanged here before drawing quarters. He suffered so horrendously that the Queen allowed his fellow plotters to be hanged until death, before also being drawn and quartered. There he is with his fellow plotters.
Accomplices.
Yeah.
Look at that whispering. Look, it's funny how it goes up like a little snake.
Yeah. And and then this is a picture of what happens in the back. Is what happens to them later. So there's a lot going on in that picture.
But that all happened in this square.
Yes. What's going on in that one? Yeah, so his accomplices again. Who's that?
Is that the museum?
Where's the bit about... I thought it said about there being tunnels underneath it, Lincoln's Inn.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just keep reading and then we'll see what happens. Farrow & Co. Solicitors has been based at number 66. That was a very nice building. That's definitely worth a look. It was has been attributed to Inigo Jones. This is it was home to Spencer Perceval, the only British Prime Minister to have been assassinated. And
That's right.
it.
Yeah.
That's a picture of him there. I haven't unfortunately looked up why he was assassinated. That's the engraving of the actual event that would have been in the papers. Then there's the Sir John Soanes Museum.
That's it.
Soane was son of a bricklayer, became an architect. His work includes the Bank of England and the Dulwich Picture Gallery. He married into money and began his collection of art and oddities, including Hogarth's Rake's Progress, Free Canalettos, and many fine Egyptian, Roman and other classical pieces. The house is now a public museum and has hardly been altered since. One of the best museums in London. It's open from Tuesday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is free. Special candlelit openings take place on the first Tuesday evening of each month, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Worth a visit. Here we are. Walk through the middle of Lincoln's Inn Fields, which we didn't do because it was shut, because it was Sunday evening by now. Underneath is a network of tunnels used during World War II. The entrance, now bricked up, is located under the turf of the northeast side. And as we always say on these things,
why they
open them up.
Yeah, what's the fucking point of bricking them up?
What is the
It's like instant tourism. You get loads of people down there, you know,
makes jobs.
jobs. It'd just be
Money.
interesting for everybody in general.
Yeah, jobs.
So what do you brick it up for? Well, what is the point? Why do they do that?
I don't know. Lack of vision.
It's like the ones under Soho Square. They should open them up as well. Sitting on a gold mine. Just open it up. Yeah.
Open it all up. The underground London. Now, when we went, there was on that other side of the. They were doing another food for the homeless, weren't they?
Yeah.
Playing that fucking Chumbawamba music or
Yeah.
something. You know. The Hunterian Museum is located on the south side of the square. Where are we? Here we are. That's it. At this point, a car alarm went off that we were standing too near. We jumped away. It went off. There was somebody who was actually in the car. God knows, spies. The Hunterian Museum is located inside the Royal College of Surgeons at number 35 to 43. It's named after John Hunter, regarded as the founder of scientific surgery, 1728 to 1793. An apparently difficult and blunt man, he died in 1793 after suffering a fit during an argument at St George's Hospital over the acceptance of students for training, at which point we were reminded of the big fat man from the Doctors films that always used to get, black and white films, that always used to get shown on the telly in the school holidays.
James Robertson Justice.
Is that his name?
I think so.
Big blustering bloody,
Yeah.
bloody. You know, where
What's
they
the bleeding time? 5:30.
They were good films. I like those films. In 1799, the government purchased this collection of around 15,000 specimens, many of which are decent, good impersonation, which are on display today. The museum has recently undergone a multi-million-pound refurbishment, transforming the formerly old-fashioned displays. A glittering crystal gallery now houses over 3,000 of John Hunter's original 18th century specimens. They include teeth retrieved from soldiers on the battlefield of Waterloo, a necklace of human teeth brought from the Congo by the explorer Henry Morton Stanley, and a denture belonging to Sir Winston Churchill, which I said, well, how come he's got Winston's dentures when he died significantly before him?
I know, but I found out a story about Winston's dentures. Do you know why he had these dentures made? Because he had his teeth were fixed, and what happened? It made him speak properly. He didn't have his characteristic Churchill, you know, that weird voice he had.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So it stopped him doing that, and they thought that if he was to talk differently, the Germans would think that he'd died and they'd got an impersonator in. So they made him dentures which made them continue to speak that way.
Huh. How did you find that out?
I don't know where I heard that. I think I heard it on the radio.
Recently?
Mm. Yeah, like since we did the walk, I heard
That's
about
uncanny.
it. Yeah.
They weren't painful to have in the mouth then?
Huh?
Their dentures, well, they weren't painful to have in the mouth.
I'm not sure, but they took away his speech impediment, and they had to make ones which
Returned it.
Which returned it, yeah.
The skeleton of the Irish giant Charles Byrne, 1761 to 1783, is also on display. Byrne was thought to be over 8 feet tall, although he was actually more like 7 foot 7 inches. He was so afraid that doctors would dissect his corpse that he requested to be buried at sea. But John Hunter, ever determined, bought Byrne's corpse for £500. The Ontario Museum is open Tuesday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m, and you can still see the skeleton. And here are a selection of images of this Irish giant. There's one. See, there he is up there. There's a little man's head.
How tall was he then?
Nearly 8 foot. I mean, that's slightly overdoing it, isn't it? Unless that's a midget. That's real. So that's an ordinary 5 foot person.
But is that, yeah.
Something. And that's his skeleton, yeah. These are photos, I think. Oh no, that's somebody else. This is Patrick O'Brien. Oh well. Sorry about that. Leave the square on the southwest corner and walk down Portsmouth Street to the old curiosity shop where Richard has sold and done shows there. Let me read about it. The old curiosity dates from the 1560s, but which, despite his claim, is unlikely to be the inspiration of Dickens' book. In any event, it is a rare example of an Elizabethan building in London and one of the oldest shops in the capital. And it is like the little old lady that lives in a shoe when you go inside. It's all wooden and sort of slanted in a particular direction. Or yeah, it's slanted basically. Follow the map that takes... that was boring. But then, finally, we were ejected out to... back onto the Strand to see Wren's fine church of St Clement Danes. Once used by the lawyers of Clement's Inn, nicknamed the Island Church, it appears stranded in the middle of the road, a result of the widening of old lanes. And it was at this point that we sang... Well, because it claims to be the church referred to in the opening lines of the nursery rhyme Oranges and Lemons, and at which point we stood there and we sang Oranges and lemons, sing the bells of St Clement's.
And then about 5 seconds later,
the bloody bells died ringing.
That was it. That was the end of the walk.
That was
the perfect end.
It was the perfect end. It was a magical ending. You could not have timed it. I don't know. It was just, maybe just had to. One of that, had to be there. You just had to be there, guys. It was. You sing it, and then suddenly it replies.
Yeah, it's like
it was uncanny, but not in a frightening way. It was great. I'm going to go and get a couple of cups for that stuff. Then we'll just wrap up.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is, if you had done the whole walk and got to that point and then sung that song and then the bell rang, well, if you had been with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you would have kissed them. You would have. Come on, you would have. You would have given them a kiss. You would have put your arm around them and given them a kiss. The perfect ending to a near perfect walk. You would have. It would have been a very romantic... Alright, you can have that one then. This one's a little bit grubby. There's nothing in it yet. I'll be on the floor. Certainly, for me, the dead ends were challenging to the morale. They were. I won't deny that.
But it's made me, it's given me a totally different insight to that whole area of London. I'll think about it completely differently from now
Yeah. Well, definitely going to revisit the Knights Templar church.
Yeah, and I'd like to go to that museum actually on a Tuesday for a candlelit evening.
Yes. Yes, indeed. First Tuesdays. May I ponce a real cigarette just to have with this
Yeah, sure.
sophisticated booze? So, I'm going to give this walk a 9 because of the magical moment at the end. It was like the cherry on the, it was like a little. That was a gift.
But it was, I think if, there was a large chunk that we kind of missed out, but.
Well, the thing is that, like, I'm always pining for the river walks because you've got that. It comes loaded with inherent romance, and then you often think of the city walks. You think, oh God, this is going to be a grim slog through grey streets.
Yeah.
But this just really came alive.
Yeah.
It came alive. It took us to like these oases of like chunks of the past, the quiet, especially because I imagine these areas are generally quiet-ish anyway, even during the week.
Yeah.
That just there's just sitting there that most people don't know. They just don't know about it. They just don't know.
Yeah, it was a good one.
What was your
Highlight.
Yeah, well, there was that bog from the film. No, it was a highlight though. You have the profane and the prosaic and all the rest of it, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I think the whole thing really. I can't really.
Well, I love that little nugget of information about salting the heads.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have known that.
Stopping off in that old pub, going up the crickety old stairs with the young and the old barristers in there. The great gold Gorgon at the top of the stairs,
Yeah.
In fact, I was thinking about, as I was saying about doing the pub talks, I was thinking, could I get away with doing one in there?
You try.
Yeah, but if you fuck it up, that Gorgon will be on you. And it is pokey, isn't it? You'd have to have space for the projector to. But yeah.
So do you think they discuss their cases down there?
Probably. They probably get quite loose with their tongues. I've had a few drinks.
It'd be nice to go down there actually and kind of infiltrate.
Well, I said when we were there, I said I'm not a thief, but if I was a pickpocket, this would be a funny place to come and pickpocket
Yeah.
in. Yeah, no, it's great. I'm glad that we didn't stop off at an earlier pub now, because we could have, but we chose not to.
Yeah.
We by chance we actually stopped at one that turns up in the books. 400 years old. 400 years old.
Yeah, I was desperate to go to the Ye Olde Cheshire Cheese
Yes, you kept going on about that.
because that is the oldest. Well, I think it is the oldest pub in London.
And it's in this area, is it?
Well, it's on Fleet Street. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just Google that for you. See if it's still open.
What's that? TripAdvisor.
Yeah, it looks shit.
Just go to. There's probably like a Wikipedia for it.
The legendary London pub. That's got its own thing. Yeah, so it's still going now. Right. Oh, it's around New Court Temple. That is vast compared to the tiny little a hidden treasure, a stone's throw from the Royal Courts of Justice. You can be sure of a warm welcome. It's a Grade 2 listed building. There's been a pub here since the late 18th century. So is that doesn't say it's the oldest.
Put up oldest pub, London.
This is where David is an aficionado of these things. Pub in London. The oldest pubs in London. Well, tell us the fucking oldest, right? Which is the oldest pub? The oldest pub is the Seven Stars in Holborn.
That's what we went
That's
to.
all we're at.
Yeah. How well they go?
That is the oldest pub in London.
Wow, I didn't know.
Well, what is it doing? It does this now ever since it's had a fucking. We were at the very oldest pub in London. There you go. Wow. Well. There it is. I don't know why every time. Fucking. Stop doing that. Yeah. So. I don't know. Have you got anything more to say? Or is that the end of that one? The next walk will be on my birthday, dear listener. I'm not going to tell you what day that is because I don't want you to make a fuss. But yes. And then we're going to go to a comedy club afterwards to see some amateurs try to bust out there. I might even go up on there and try to
Why didn't you?
do a couple of jokes myself.
Is it an open mic? Anyone can do it?
Yeah.
All right.
Any old arsehole.
All right.
You know, and hopefully it'll be full of like tragic hopefuls. I've got one joke. I just can't know quite how to frame it. But the punchline is Nostradamus.
Right.
What do you call a man who tells the future by his smell? Nostradamus. Okay, thanks for listening. See you next time. That's bye bye from him.
Good night.
And bye bye from me. Baleful.
I would just like to make a quick apology for my loud, crisp eating during this section of the talk.
I'll start again. I would just like to say, stop now. I Beamish want to apologise.
Are you going to say it for me or what? Are you saying it for me?
No, you continue.
Right. What I was wanting to say, dear listener, is that I am profusely apologetic for the loud, crisp eating during that last section.
I was very hungry.
I hadn't eaten all day, and I came here and, I bought this packet of Doritos, and it's tasty, and I couldn't help myself. And then
What flavour was the dip?
it was the dip was tzatziki, but
Is that cucumber?
it's Greek. It's yogurt, cucumber, and
Goat cum.
I can't remember the exact ingredient.
That's the binding agent.
But anyway, I'm sorry for those noise. This microphone is so sort of delicate; it picks up the high frequencies. So, like crunching of crisps and popping of beer cans is amplified beyond what you'd really want, and I apologise for that.
And I'd just like to add that apparently Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah, it was Mahatma Gandhi.
Is Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah, it's the same person. Why? What has he got two names or what?
It says it on Wikipedia, but I can't be asked to look right now. Back to the film.
Pod.
Back to the pod.
Pod awful.
There is a pod called... Anyway, back to the best pod in the world.
Peapod.
The Peabody pod. They're giving it all away.